Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to do a bit of a mid-year check-in to see how my reading is going in 2018 so far. I think the thing to do here is to start off with the good news, which is that I am already having a far better reading year than I was last year, and I think emblematic of that is the fact that I have already accomplished my Goodreads reading challenge. Because I wanted this to be a super low-key, low-pressure reading year, I had set my Goodreads reading challenge to 12 books in 2018, which of course was based on the assumption that I would be reading at least one book a month every month this year. I'm happy to report that I hit that 12 book goal last week at the end of June. So although yes, 12 books in 6 months is on the slower side here on BookTube, I'm just really happy that I accomplished even a small goal, because now every time I read another book, it's gonna look like I've way surpassed my reading goal, and that, I don't know, it's like kind of a psychology trick, I guess, but it's totally working for me right now. I thought it would be interesting to do a quick genre breakdown of the 12 books that I've read this year, because my reading, I think you'll see, has definitely shifted from where I was reading, say, last year or the year before that. So of the 12 books I have read so far this year, 7 have been nonfiction books, 4 have been graphic novels, and 1 has been a short story collection. Another thing I think is really interesting about this breakdown is that you can see that I have not been reading any literary or translated fiction like at all this year, which is basically what I focused a lot on over the past, say, 3 years. So definitely a shift in my reading there. I mentioned this in my last video on Asian American authors, but it's not that I've fallen out of love with literary fiction. It's not that I'm no longer interested in reading literary or translated fiction. It's literally that I've just been going with my gut reading cravings, and so far this year that has not been what I've been craving. You guys get what I mean. However, generally speaking, or historically speaking, I guess we should say, in the summer I crave literary fiction, I crave translated fiction that's slower paced, and specifically Japanese fiction. So I do think this would be the time of year that I would get back into that, but we'll have to see how I go forward. I want to talk briefly about the other challenges that I set for myself at the beginning of the year, but I think it's important to note that I didn't really set those challenges as strict goals that I need to work towards. I kind of put them out there more as kind of a reading safety net. Basically, last year I kept getting overwhelmed by my shelves and wouldn't know what to pick up, or just wasn't, wanted to read, generally speaking, but wasn't sure how to get back into it. And so this year I set very loose challenges for myself to kind of pull from when, on the off chance, I hit that kind of a slumpy feeling. So for example, one of the challenges I mentioned was the Book Riot Read Harder challenge, which I actually have not read anything towards, but which I still look at from time to time. If I'm feeling like a little bit of a slump come on, and I'm feeling less than inspired on what I have on my shelves, or what I'm thinking about reading, then I look at the challenge list and kind of remind myself that there are all of these options out there that I never would normally think of. There we go. The other kind of challenge or goal I had set for myself was to read more Black and Latino authors, which I'm actually being very bad about right now. I have not worked towards that goal at all, and this is the one goal where I do feel like I want to make a little bit more active effort. So hopefully I can work on that in the second half of 2018. And then the only other challenge I had for myself in 2018 was to continue my Read Your Own Damn Books project. Now, I do this a little bit differently than everybody else who does this challenge. I don't have a strict numerical goal for how many books off my TBR I should have read by the end of the year. And the way that I define my TBR is that I take a tally of all the books that I owned at the beginning of the year, should have read by the end of the year. And the way that I define my TBR is that I take a tally of all the books that I owned at the beginning of the year. So if I owned it going into January 1st, 2018, that is on my Read Your Own Your Own Damn Books TBR. As of right now, I have only read one book that I owned at the beginning of the year, which means that's only one book off of that challenge. And that book was Jen Campbell's The Beginning of the World and the Middle of the Night. I think the problem here is that I have been reading a lot of audiobooks this year, and I've just been purchasing them every month when I get my new Audible credit. So I think that's contributed to me not reading on my own shelves so much, but hopefully, again, that's something I can work on in the second half of 2016. 2016. Holy crap, we just went back 2 years. 2018. And then because I really enjoyed seeing people's videos on their favorite books of 2018 so far, I thought I would throw in two of like my favorite books of the year so far. Number one would definitely be War and Peace by Ronan Farrow. This is a nonfiction book that is part memoir, part brief history of modern diplomacy, in which Ronan Farrow gives us a peek behind the scenes into the State Department and into how diplomacy works. He also advocates for a more diplomacy first, military second foreign policy, and in general, I just think this is an absolutely fascinating book. This is actually the only book in recent memory that I have reread immediately after finishing it. I finished it on audio one night. Then by the next morning I was like, I have to listen to that again, and immediately went back to the beginning and started over. I honestly don't remember the last time I did that with a book, so I definitely had to mention this one as a favorite, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who is interested in current events, politics, or diplomacy. The other book I really wanted to mention was American Radical by Tamer El-Nouri. Now this one I also listened to on audio, and I can genuinely say that this is the book that I enjoyed the most while listening to or reading this year so far. This is a memoir by a Muslim FBI agent who specifically worked undercover during his time with the FBI, and he basically in this book focuses predominantly on one major undercover counterterrorism case that he was a part of. It honestly reads like a thriller, and if you were all into you know, true crime or law enforcement or espionage, that sort of thing, I think you'll really like this, and again would highly recommend. And that is my 2018 in books so far. I think you guys can probably tell that in general I'm just I have a far better outlook on my reading this year. I feel far more positive about it. I think part of that has to do with the fact that I'm literally just reading whatever I want this year. I'm actually not doing any book reviews for April magazine at the moment, and I've been meaning to get back into it, but it's also been really freeing at the same time because I have absolutely, you know, I don't owe anyone anything when it comes to my reading. I don't have to form an opinion or share it when I don't want to, and there's something very liberating about that. Of course, I would also love to know how your reading year is going so far. I hope it's going well for you, and because we are at the halfway mark here, I do want to give a massive shout out to my patrons and just say thank you guys for continuing to support me. I hope I can continue making the kinds of content that you like to see, and hopefully I will also find my eloquence somewhere along the line. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap things up here, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye!